Well, this has not been our proposal. It's something that we're agreeing to. It's a position that was taken by the former government, by Sir Peter Caruana when he was in government, and which we have considered very carefully. And it is not the issue that we thought was the most pressing in the context of parliamentary reform.
And which you originally rejected.
And which the GSLP originally said it was not prepared to support. We thought there were more things to do. The televising of Parliament, the refurbishment of the facilities, giving people more access to Parliament as we did then, and all of the other changes that we brought, like the issuing of the timetable, the monthly meetings. Unfortunately, Brexit has not enabled us to pursue those, but we got into a very good rhythm for the first 5 years, I think, of Parliament, and I hope to get back into that. So all of that we thought had to happen first, and what I said to Daniel Feetham when he was leader of the opposition was that I was prepared to keep an open mind about this and to review it further. So we've done that work. The GSLP as a party and the Liberal Party separately have reached a determination that it is now the right moment to address this. We've been able to have one meeting only of the Select Committee. I hope we'll be able to have more through the lifetime of this Parliament and in the next Parliament as well. And now was the time to say enlargement should happen. Now, what enlargement does is it puts the government, the executive, the government as we know it, in a minority in the Parliament. It does so on the basis of a number of different possible permutations. The permutation you would expect to see if the block votes hold up, as they have always, is the government would have 15 members of the Parliament, 5 of them on the backbenchers, because we are going to maintain 10 only as ministers, and the opposition, you would have a different split there depending on how the votes go, would have 7 frontbench members if it was one party and 3 backbenchers.
Well, you say the executive will be in a minority, but that's not really the case in practice, though, is it? Because no one's really going to believe that 5 government backbenchers are going to vote against the GSLP Liberal whip.
The way that it works in every other Parliament in the overseas territories and indeed in the Westminster model, so in the Parliament of Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all of the Commonwealth, is that this is the concept. The Parliament is larger than the numbers of members of the executive represented in the Parliament. Whether or not it happens often that backbenchers vote against the government, you might have one backbencher taking a view and voting against the government. Mr. Corbyn didn't have to wait for the Brexit issues. Mr. Corbyn has been a member of the Labour Party for decades. He's been a member of the Parliament for decades. He never voted with the Labour government when Tony Blair was Prime Minister. So you can have rebels that might not carry the day. They may not defeat the government, but they express an opinion. So we've been persuaded that this is actually the missing piece.
By who? By who? Who has persuaded you?
So we've been persuaded in the context of the debate that we've had in Parliament through the Select Committee. The Commission decided against it. There was a dissenting opinion. We considered that even further. We then took evidence from those who wanted to come to the Parliament and give us their evidence, and we've been persuaded that this is actually...
But the proposal is yours, isn't it?
Well, hang on, let me finish a sentence and then I'll answer your question. We've been persuaded that this is actually the piece that is missing in the context of the structure of Parliament in order to ensure that we are a full Westminster-style parliamentary democracy. And for that reason, as chairman of the Select Committee, I've acceded to the proposal and put it in the report that the Select Committee has sent the Parliament, which is the one that you saw yesterday.
But what I'm trying to ask you is, you're saying that you've been persuaded that this is the right thing to do. I'm putting it to you that these are your proposals.
Well, it's not my proposal. It's the Select Committee now accepting the proposal that was put to it in the context of the debate by the then leader of the opposition, Daniel Feetham. This came from Sir Peter Caruana at the time that he was Chief Minister, and in fact it was him that suggested, it was Sir Peter who suggested that instead of simply pursuing the proposals of the Commission on Parliamentary Reform and accepting them on a yes or no basis in the course of one debate, that we should create the Select Committee. We agreed to that, we created the Select Committee, and this is the process that has led to this conclusion. There will be others, there are other things the Select Committee needs to do.